This morning does not need to be conquered before it can belong to you. There are 3 thresholds in front of you today, and none of them asks for speed. The first is the threshold of your body, the quiet place where waking begins before plans, before messages, before anyone else has asked anything from you. The second is the threshold of your mind, where yesterday may still be standing with its arms full, trying to hand you every unfinished thought at once. The third is different. You cannot push it open by force. You cannot earn it by being productive enough, positive enough, calm enough, or certain enough. We will come to that one later, because it has a way of opening only after you stop treating yourself like a problem that must be solved before breakfast. For now, let this morning be smaller. You do not have to turn it into a new life. You do not have to make a promise you are too tired to keep. You do not have to become a brighter version of yourself before the sun has fully settled into the room. There is no test hidden inside these words. There is no grade for how peaceful you become. There is no spiritual prize for waking without heaviness. You are allowed to arrive exactly as you are. If your eyes opened before your hope did, you are still here. If the first thing you felt was pressure, you are still here. If your body woke but some part of you wanted to remain under the covers because the day already felt crowded, you are still here. That is enough for this moment. Morning advice often arrives with a strange kind of demand. Start strong. Think positively. Get moving. Win the first hour. Become the person who has a perfect routine, a perfect mind, a perfect glass of water waiting beside a perfect journal. There is nothing wrong with routines when they support you. There is nothing wrong with discipline when it is rooted in care. But a tiredness, Ed's soul hears commands differently. What sounds motivating to one person can sound like another weight placed on the chest of someone who has been carrying too much for too long. So this is not a command. You do not need to rise quickly. You do not need to prove that you are grateful. You do not need to turn sadness into wisdom before you have even named the sadness. You do not need to make peace with everything today. You do not need to forgive on a schedule. You do not need to answer every question your mind brought into the room overnight. A beginning can be real even when it is quiet. A beginning can count even when no one else sees it. A beginning can happen before confidence appears. There may be a part of you that already started negotiating with the day the moment you woke. It checked the time. It calculated how many hours you slept. It remembered what was left unfinished. It began arranging responsibilities in a line. It searched for what could go wrong, who might need you, what message might be waiting, which task you forgot, what mood someone else might be in, what decision still has no clear answer. That part of you may be very fast. It may have years of practice. It may reach for your phone before you have even fully returned to your own body. You know the movement. Your hand goes toward the screen almost by memory. You tell yourself you are only checking the time, but then the notifications are there. A message, a headline, a number beside an app. Someone has already entered the morning before you have had a chance to enter it yourself. Sometimes nothing is wrong, and still your nervous system acts as though something might be. Sometimes there is no bad news, yet your eyes scan for it. Sometimes you read a perfectly ordinary message and begin wondering what the sender really meant. Sometimes you see that someone has not replied, and your mind begins writing explanations. Sometimes you see that someone has replied, and you are too tired to open it. This is how exhaustion can hide in ordinary gestures. It is not always dramatic. It does not always look like collapse. Sometimes it looks like staring at a notification and deciding you cannot deal with it yet. Sometimes it looks like opening the same message 3 times and still not knowing how to answer. Sometimes it looks like making coffee and forgetting where you put the cup. Sometimes it looks like standing in front of a closet with no energy for a simple choice. Sometimes it looks like hearing your own voice say, "I'm fine," with such practiced smoothness that even you almost believe it. You may have become very skilled at functioning while tired. People may call you strong because you continue. People may rely on you because you usually find a way. You may have learned how to answer kindly while your thoughts are frayed. You may know how to show up for work, family, appointments, responsibilities, and conversations even when some inner room has not been cleaned out in a very long time. Functional does not always mean rested. Responsibly does not always mean supported. Smiling does not always mean light. You can be capable and still need care. You can be loving and still need space. You can be grateful for your life and still admit that some parts of living have exhausted you. Those truths do not cancel one another. Perhaps yesterday followed you into bed, not the whole day, only fragments of it. A sentence someone said, a look you could not read, a moment you wish you had handled differently, a bill, a silence, a decision, a mistake that has grown larger in memory than it was in the room where it happened. A responsibility waiting for you this morning as if sleep were supposed to turn you into a different person. The mind can be strangely devoted to unfinished things. It circles them because it believes circling is preparation. It replays conversations because it believes repetition might reveal the perfect response you should have given. It predicts difficulties because it hopes prediction will protect you from surprise. It rehearses loss because some old part of it believes that if pain is imagined in advance, pain will hurt less when it arrives. The mind is not always wise in the ways it tries to protect you, but protection is often what it is attempting. That matters, because if you call every protective habit a personal failure, you add another layer of struggle to the struggle already there. You become tired and then angry that you are tired. You become anxious and then ashamed that anxiety appeared. You hesitate and then accuse yourself of weakness. You need rest and then turn rest into evidence that you are falling behind. You become human and then punish yourself for not being machine-like. That second wound is often the one we can begin releasing first. The first difficulty may still exist. The unanswered message may still be unanswered. The financial concern may still require attention. The relationship may still need honesty. The deadline may still be real. The grief may still be present. The body may still be tired. But you do not need to stand against yourself while you meet what is already difficult. That is the first threshold. Not getting out of bed, not becoming productive, not forcing a better mood. The first threshold is ending the morning argument with your own humanity. You do not have to win against yourself today. You do not have to drag yourself into the day by criticism. You do not have to call pressure motivation. You do not have to insult the part of you that is slow. There are mornings when your first act of strength is refusing to speak cruelly to yourself. There are mornings when courage looks almost unimpressive from the outside. You place both feet on the floor. You wash your face. You answer one necessary message instead of all of them. You eat something. You open a curtain. You decide that one task is enough for the first hour. No one applauds. Nothing dramatic changes. Yet somewhere inside, an old pattern is interrupted. The interruption matters. You may be accustomed to beginning from accusation. Why am I still like this? Why am I not further ahead? Why did I let that happen? Why can't I just move on? Why am I so tired? Why do simple things feel heavy? Why can't I be more disciplined? Why am I thinking about this again? Questions can sound innocent while carrying a hidden verdict. Sometimes you are not asking because you want understanding. Sometimes you're asking because you have already decided there must be something wrong with you. Try another possibility this morning. What if your tiredness is information rather than an indictment? What if your hesitation contains a message? What if your mind has been doing overtime because it learned somewhere along the way that staying alert was safer than relaxing? What if the part of you that checks, rechecks, prepares, rehearses, and anticipates is not trying to ruin your peace, but trying, awkwardly, to prevent pain? This does not mean every habit should remain. It means change becomes kinder when you understand what the habit was trying to do. A clenched hand does not always open because someone shouts at it. Sometimes it opens after it finally understands that it does not have to hold everything. The same can be true of you. You may have spent months holding conversations long after they ended. You may have spent years carrying roles you accepted before you knew how expensive they would become. You may have become the reliable one, the calm one, the fixer, the listener, the one who remembers birthdays, the one who notices tension, the one who smooths things over, the one who keeps going. There is dignity in being dependable. There is also danger in becoming so dependable that you disappear from your own list of responsibilities. You can care for others without making yourself the emergency supply for everyone. You can love people without making their comfort the measure of your goodness. You can show up without showing up empty. These are not selfish ideas. They are ways of becoming honest enough to live inside your own life. Your exhaustion may not be only about sleep. At times, it is decision fatigue. It could be emotional monitoring. It can come from being available too often. It can come from swallowing what you wanted to say. Some of it may come from trying to read rooms before you enter them. Some of it can be the work of keeping track of everyone else's moods. At times, you are carrying future conversations before they happen. At times, the exhaustion lives in the quiet labor of looking fine. A person can sleep 8 hours and wake tired from a life that never gives the mind permission to put its keys down. You may recognize this in small morning moments. You wake and immediately review your obligations. Before your feet touch the floor, you are already mentally at noon. While brushing your teeth, you are answering an imaginary conversation. Dressing, you are remembering yesterday. While eating, you are planning tonight. The body is in one room, the mind is in 6. No wonder the morning can feel like something has already been taken from you. You have not even started the day, and yet attention has been scattered into places that do not exist in this minute. This is where people sometimes tell you to be present, as though presence were a switch. For a tired mind, presence is rarely a switch. It is more like returning one object at a time. One thought from tomorrow, one sentence from yesterday, one imagined reaction from another person, one expectation you never consciously agreed to, one demand that entered through habit. You do not have to retrieve everything at once. You can begin with one. That is all this morning is asking. There is something deeply tiring about waking into a life where you believe every emotion must be corrected quickly. Sadness appears, and you rush to replace it. Fear appears, and you tell yourself you should know better. Anger appears, and you judge it. Loneliness appears, and you call yourself ungrateful. Disappointment appears, and you search for the lesson before you have admitted the loss. Human emotions do not become healthier because they are hurried out of the room. Sometimes an emotion softens because it has finally been named without punishment. You can say, "I am disappointed," without deciding disappointment is your destiny. You can say, "I am tired," without turning tiredness into an identity. You can say, "I am afraid," without handing fear the keys to the whole day. You can say, "I miss what I hoped would happen," without pretending that hope was foolish. This kind of honesty is not negativity. It is contact. It is the difference between meeting yourself and managing yourself. A tired soul does not always need another management plan. Sometimes it needs contact. Sometimes it needs one clear moment in which you stop standing over yourself with a clipboard, measuring progress, correcting tone, reviewing mistakes, comparing timelines, and asking why healing is taking so long. You are not a delayed project. You are a living person. You have moved through experiences that changed your expectations, your energy, your sense of safety, your relationships, your body, your sleep, your priorities, your patience, your confidence, or the way you hear certain words. Of course, some mornings carry traces of that. Of course, yesterday is not erased simply because the date changed. Of course, becoming more peaceful takes more than deciding that peace is a good idea. You are allowed to work with reality instead of against it. Reality may be that you woke tired. Start there. Reality may be that your mind is already loud. Start there. Reality may be that you do not know how a situation will turn out. Start there. Reality may be that you need help. Start there. Reality may be that you are doing better than you think, but too exhausted to feel proud of it. Start there. The morning does not reject you for where you begin. You may have learned to reject yourself there. That can change, not by demanding instant self-love, not by forcing beautiful thoughts over painful ones, not by pretending every difficulty is secretly wonderful. It changes when the voice inside you becomes less interested in punishment and more interested in truth. Truth can be tender without being dishonest. Truth can say, "This is hard and I am still worthy of care." Truth can say, "I do not have the answer yet and I can still take the next sane step." Truth can say, "Someone may be disappointed by my boundary and the boundary may still be necessary." Truth can say, "I wanted something that did not happen." Truth can say, "I am learning how to stop earning rest." Truth can say, "Today does not have to repair my whole life." These are sturdy thoughts. They do not float away the moment something inconvenient happens. They do not require you to deny pain. They make room for complexity. It may be that this is what your morning has been missing. Not more brightness, more room. Room for the part of you that is hopeful and the part that is cautious. Room for the part that wants change and the part that is frightened of change. Room for gratitude and grief. Room for ambition and fatigue. Room for love and boundaries. Room for not knowing. You do not have to choose one version of yourself and exile the others before the day can begin. You are allowed to be a whole person at breakfast. You may be hearing these words while still in bed. You may already be dressed. You may be driving, making tea, sitting in a kitchen, getting ready for work, walking somewhere, or trying to gather yourself before another person enters the room. Wherever you are, there is no perfect posture for beginning again. Beginning again is not a pose. It is a relationship with the next moment. The next moment does not ask what happened 3 years ago before it arrives. It does not check whether you handled yesterday elegantly. It does not demand that you explain why you are tired. It arrives, then another arrives, then another. Life gives you these small arrivals constantly, but the mind often groups them into one enormous object called the day. The day. So much to do, so much to handle, so much that might happen, so much that could go wrong, so much you should have figured out already. No wonder the word feels heavy. Shrink it, this breath, this sip, this step, this message, this room, this decision, this hour. A tired mind deserves smaller containers. There will be time later for plans. There will be time for decisions that truly need decisions. There will be time to address what cannot be ignored. But not everything belongs in the first 5 minutes of your consciousness. Some things can wait, outside the inner doorway until you are ready to meet them. That is not avoidance. Avoidance says, I will never deal with this. Care says, I will deal with this from a steadier place. You are allowed to create that difference. Your mind may object. It may say, we have to think about it now. You can ask, is there an action I can take in this exact minute? If the answer is yes, choose the smallest useful action. If the answer is no, thinking harder may not be preparation. It may only be repetition. That distinction can return hours of life to you over time. You do not have to solve a conversation before the other person has it with you. You do not have to live tomorrow's disappointment this morning. You do not have to rehearse every possible outcome as proof that you care. You do not have to keep touching the bruise to confirm it is still tender. Your attention is valuable, not because it makes you more productive, because attention is part of your life. Where it goes, minutes go with it. This morning, before the world receives all of you, something quieter can happen. You can begin to gather your attention back, not aggressively, not as another project, just enough to remember that you live here too, inside this body, inside this morning, inside this life that has so often been organized around what comes next. The first threshold becomes clearer now. It is the place where you stop requiring yourself to be different before offering care. You can care for the tired version. You can care for the uncertain version. You can care for the version that still thinks about something you wish no longer mattered. You can care for the version that needs more time. Care is not a reward for improvement. Care is one of the conditions that makes honest change possible. Think of how differently a frightened child responds to accusation and reassurance. Think of how differently an exhausted friend responds to criticism and understanding. Think of how differently your own body responds when your inner voice says, "Move, what is wrong with you?" compared with, "We are tired. We will take the next step without making this harder." Words create atmosphere. The words you use with yourself create an atmosphere you must live inside all day. This is why morning words matter. Not because a sentence can control every event, not because positive thinking guarantees a certain future. Words matter because they shape the way you accompany yourself through what happens. You still live in a world with uncertainty. You still meet other people's choices. You still face practical realities. You still have days that do not go according to plan. But the voice beside you can stop becoming an additional source of harm. That is a profound change. You may not need a new personality. You may need a new companion inside your own mind the one who does not disappear when you are imperfect, one who does not become cruel when you are scared, one who does not compare your private struggle with someone else's public image, one who does not turn every delay into doom, one who does not call rest laziness without asking what you have been carrying, one who can say, "We will begin from here." There is power in that sentence because here is the only place a real beginning ever happens. Not from the version of you who slept perfectly, not from the version who never made the mistake, not from the version who has no grief, not from the version with unlimited energy. From here, with this body, with this history, with this amount of strength, with this uncertainty, with this one morning. Your body and mind are not always elegant messengers. Sometimes they send heaviness, irritability, forgetfulness, tension, restlessness, the desire to withdraw. The inability to make one more unnecessary decision. These experiences can have many causes, and they deserve appropriate care when they persist or interfere with your life. What matters in this moment is that you do not use them as proof that you are weak. You are receiving information. You can respond with curiosity. You can respond with respect. You can respond with support. You can respond without making yourself smaller. The second threshold begins here. The mind does not become quiet because you order it to be quiet. It becomes easier to live with when you stop believing every thought deserves immediate obedience. A thought can say, "Something bad is going to happen." You can answer, "That is a possibility my mind is generating, not a fact I have been given." A thought can say, "They are upset with me." You can answer, "I do not know that yet." A thought can say, "I have ruined everything." You can answer, "Something is difficult. I will deal with what is actually true." A thought can say, "I am behind." You can ask, "Behind whose clock?" A thought can say, "I should be over this." You can answer, "Healing does not report to a deadline." You do not have to argue with every thought. Some can pass without a trial. Some can sit in the waiting room. Some can be written down for later. Some can be recognized as old alarms echoing in a new morning. This is not about pretending. It is about precision. Pain says one thing. Fear often adds 10 more. Precision brings you back to what is actually here. What is actually here may be one difficult email, not a ruined future, one uncertain conversation, not universal rejection, one mistake, not proof that you fail at everything, one tired morning, not a failed life. This is how you stop turning a moment into an identity. You return to scale. You return to truth. You return to yourself. The third threshold is still ahead. I have not named it yet because naming it too early would make it sound like another concept to understand, and this morning does not need more concepts stacked on top of your fatigue. You will know it better when we reach it through experience. For now, stay with what has already become possible. You do not need to fight your tiredness. You do not need to praise it. You do not need to build a story around it. You can meet it. You can say, "This is where I am today." Then you can ask a kinder question than the ones you usually ask. Not, "How do I become impressive again?" Not, "How do I catch up with everyone?" Not, "How do I make sure nobody is disappointed?" Ask this: what would make the next hour more livable? That question is modest enough to be useful. The answer might be breakfast. It could be water. It might be taking medication as prescribed. It could be sending one honest message. It may be asking for help. At times, the answer is postponing something non-essential. It might be stepping outside for a few minutes. It could be doing the one task that will reduce the most pressure. For you, it may mean choosing not to begin the morning with news. It might mean putting the phone down long enough to hear your own thoughts before hearing everyone else's. Or it could mean saying nothing at all for a while. Your answer does not have to look meaningful to anyone else. It only has to respect the life you are actually living. This is where a softer beginning becomes practical. Soft does not mean passive. Soft does not mean weak. Soft does not mean avoiding truth. Soft means you stop wasting strength on unnecessary self-violence. You keep your strength for what matters, for the conversation, for the boundary, for the work, for the appointment, for the grief, for the decision, for the act of starting again. You do not spend half of it attacking yourself before the real day begins. There is another way to enter a morning. You are getting close to it now. It begins before the world has fully entered. It begins before you decide what you can give. It begins with the question of what you will place where your own attention can see it first. We will open that next. For this moment, let one truth remain with you. You are not late to your own life because you needed a slower morning. You are here. You are listening. You are beginning. Beginning does not ask you to become someone else before the next minute arrives. It asks for honesty, not dramatic honesty, not the kind that turns your whole life inside out before breakfast. Just enough honesty to say, "This is what I am carrying today, and I do not want to carry it by fighting myself." There are mornings when tiredness has many layers. There is the tiredness in the body. There is the tiredness of thinking. There is the tiredness of holding yourself together in places where you do not feel understood. There is the tiredness of being the person who remembers, the person who anticipates, the person who checks whether everyone else is okay before asking the same question of yourself. There is the tiredness of making decisions no one sees, what to say, what not to say, whether to answer now, whether to wait, whether to explain, whether to forgive, whether to try again, whether to let something go. A life can become exhausting long before it becomes visibly difficult. You may have learned to measure hardship only by what would look serious to someone else. If there is no obvious crisis, you may tell yourself you have no right to be worn down. If someone else has it worse, you may reduce your own experience until it barely qualifies for compassion. But pain does not become imaginary because another person has pain too. Fatigue does not become selfish because somebody else is also tired. Your need for care does not require a courtroom. You do not have to present evidence before you are permitted to sit down inside your own life. This is important because many tired people do not rest when they are tired. They prosecute themselves. They build a case. They list everything they did not finish. They compare their energy to an earlier version of themselves. They remember people who seem to carry more. They ask whether they are being lazy. They wonder whether they are losing discipline. They decide that if they were stronger, calmer, wiser, healthier, more spiritual, more organized, more focused, then simple things would not feel so difficult. And then the tiredness must carry shame too. That is a heavy way to begin a day. You may know the feeling of waking after sleep and still not feeling restored. The eyes open, but the inner machinery feels reluctant. The room is familiar. The ceiling is familiar. The sounds are ordinary. Nothing has happened yet, and still there is a sense that you have already arrived late to something. Your mind starts filling the silence. You should get up. You should answer that. You should make a plan. You should be more grateful. You should stop thinking about that person. You should know what you want by now. You should have recovered by now. You should not still need reassurance. You should not be this sensitive. You should not be this affected. The word should can turn an ordinary morning into a room full of judges. Some of those judges borrowed their voices from people you have known. Some came from expectations you absorbed so early you no longer remember agreeing to them. Some came from a culture that praises visible output and rarely asks what it cost. Some came from seasons when survival required you to be useful even when you were hurting. Some came from love that was given more freely when you were easy, able, productive, quiet, helpful, successful, or strong. So you learned. You learned how to keep moving. You learned how to make yourself convenient. You learned how to answer, "I'm okay," before checking whether it was true. You learned to postpone your own signals. You learned to think of rest as something that had to be justified. You learned to keep the peace in places where your own peace was the price. None of this means you chose every pattern consciously. Much of what becomes automatic began as adaptation. A child adapts, a young person adapts, a frightened nervous system adapts, a lonely heart adapts, a person trying to belong adapts. The mind asks, what keeps me connected? What reduces conflict? What helps me avoid rejection? What gets me through the day? Then it repeats the answer. Years later, the answer may no longer fit, but the repetition remains. This is why you can know better and still struggle to do differently. Knowledge is important. but knowledge alone does not erase a practiced response. You can understand that you are safe and still brace when a certain tone enters the room. You can know that one person's silence does not define your worth and still feel your stomach drop when a message goes unanswered. You can believe in boundaries and still feel guilty when you use one. You can understand that rest is necessary and still hear an old accusation when you stop. This does not make you dishonest. It means different parts of you learned at different times. Your present mind may know something your older protective patterns have not fully trusted yet. That is why force often fails. Force says, "You know better, stop this." Care says, "I see why this began. We are learning another way." The second voice does not excuse harm. It does not keep every habit forever. It creates the conditions in which change does not have to feel like another attack. You do not heal an overworked inner world by becoming another demanding supervisor. You do not teach safety through contempt. You do not build trust by threatening yourself with disappointment. This morning can become an experiment in a different kind of leadership, not leadership over other people. Leadership within, the kind that does not shout because it is afraid of losing control, the kind that does not make promises it cannot keep, the kind that knows when to act and when to reduce noise, the kind that can look at a crowded inner room and say, "We will not sort everything before we begin." Maybe you have been trying to sort everything. Every feeling, every fear, every relationship, every plan, every question about the future, every unresolved part of the past. You may sit quietly while your mind creates a meeting with all of them at once. No wonder you feel overwhelmed. Imagine asking one person to answer 20 phones at the same time. You would not call that person weak when they became confused. You would reduce the number of calls. Yet when your own mind is receiving 20 inner demands, you may call yourself unfocused. The kinder question is not, "Why can't I handle this?" It is, "What can be taken off the line?" One thing may not belong to today. One thing may belong to someone else. One thing may be a fear without evidence. One thing may need a real conversation rather than another hour of private rehearsal. One thing may need professional guidance. One thing may not need an answer yet. One thing may be grief, which cannot be completed like a task. One thing may be a dream that needs time rather than pressure. You do not have to turn all uncertainty into immediate action. Some uncertainty is simply the space before more information arrives. The mind dislikes that space. It wants closure. It wants to know. It wants a map. It wants to predict. But life does not always provide certainty on demand. So the mind sometimes manufactures certainty from fear. They will leave. I will fail. This will never change. I have missed my chance. I cannot handle what comes next. Fear speaks in final sentences because final sentences feel like control. Reality is often less dramatic and more open. You do not know yet. Something may change. You may need support. You may learn something. A door may close. Another choice may become visible. You may need to grieve. You may need to begin differently. Open-ended truth can feel less satisfying than fearful certainty, but it is more honest, and honesty gives you room. Room is what a tired soul often needs before it needs advice. There is a morning image I want to place beside you now, not as a lesson to memorize, as a place you can enter. Picture a small shop on a quiet street before the day has fully begun. The buildings around it are still holding the last coolness of night. The pavement has not warmed yet. A delivery truck may pass somewhere in the distance. A bicycle rolls by. A bird lands briefly on a sign and leaves. A few windows above the street have lights in them, but most curtains are still drawn. The shop itself is closed. Its shutters are down. From the outside, nothing seems to be happening. No customers, no conversations, no transactions, no demands. Just a locked front door, a narrow doorway, and the metal shutters covering the window. Then the owner arrives. They are not rushing. There is no crowd waiting. No one is asking for anything yet. The key turns. The door opens. Inside, the air has the stillness of a room that has been left alone overnight. There may be a faint smell of wood, paper, cloth, soap, coffee, flowers, old shelves, clean glass, or whatever this little place carries. Nothing is performing. Nothing is trying to impress anyone. The room is simply itself before the public enters. The owner steps inside and does not immediately throw every door open. First comes the private beginning. A light is switched on. A chair is moved back into place. Something small is straightened. A cloth passes over the counter. Yesterday's dust is wiped from one surface. A cup is set down. The owner looks around, not with disgust, not with the belief that the room has failed because it needs preparing again. Of course it needs preparing again. It was lived in yesterday. People came through. Things were touched. Items were moved. The air changed. The floor collected traces of the day. No sensible shopkeeper stands in the middle of the room every morning shouting, "Why is there dust again? I cleaned yesterday." The dust is not a moral failure. It is evidence that the room has been used. Your inner world is used too. You live in it every day. People enter through conversations. Events leave marks. News leaves marks. Love leaves marks. Conflict leaves marks. Responsibility leaves marks. Memory leaves marks. Hope leaves marks. Disappointment leaves marks. You cannot expect to wake every morning with an untouched interior. You have been living. Of course, something may need tending. This is where the metaphor becomes more than beautiful. It becomes practical. Because the owner does not begin by opening the shutters to the street. The owner begins inside. Before customers see the window, the room is met privately. Before questions arrive, the counter is cleared. Before the street is invited in, something within is put in order. Not everything. Enough. This is the part many mornings steal from you. You open the shutters before you have entered the room yourself. The phone opens them. The inbox opens them. The news opens them. Someone else's need opens them. A memory opens them. A comparison opens them. A fear opens them. And suddenly the whole street is looking in before you have asked what you want the room to hold. Then you wonder why the day feels invasive. You wonder why your attention feels rented out. You wonder why by mid-morning you are already longing for quiet. The problem is not that the world exists. You need the world. You need people. You need responsibilities, relationships, work, exchange, movement, challenge, contribution, surprise. A shop that never opens is not living its purpose. But opening is different from surrendering every boundary. The owner decides when the shutters rise. The owner decides what is displayed. The owner decides what remains in storage. The owner decides which door customers use. The owner has a closing time. These are not acts of hostility toward the street. They are part of caring for the shop. Your inner life also needs forms of opening and closing, not walls against love, not permanent retreat, rhythm. You were not designed to be equally available to every demand at every hour. You were not designed to expose every thought to every person. You were not designed to treat all information as urgent. You were not designed to keep the front door of your attention unlocked while you sleep, wake, eat, work, grieve, think, recover, and try to hear yourself. A door can be loving. A shutter can be wise. A closed sign can protect what makes tomorrow's opening possible. This does not make you cold. It means your inner room has value. Think again of the owner. The shutters are still down. There is a moment before they are raised. That moment is easy to overlook because nothing dramatic happens in it. The owner chooses one beautiful thing. Only one. It could be a bowl, a book, a scarf, a loaf of bread, a vase, a handmade object, a small plant, a simple item that catches the morning light well. They place it in the window before the street begins looking in. Why? Because the window is not a warehouse. It does not contain everything. It offers one deliberate image. The rest remains inside. Your attention has a window too, and most mornings something gets placed there first. Sometimes fear places itself there. Sometimes yesterday does. Sometimes someone else's opinion. Sometimes a headline. Sometimes a number. Sometimes an unanswered message. Sometimes an old regret. Sometimes the image of another person's life. And because it is the first thing in the window, you begin to interpret the whole day through it. If worry is placed there first, every event looks like more evidence for worry. If inadequacy is placed there first, every ordinary mistake becomes proof. If comparison is placed there first, your own life starts looking smaller than it is. If resentment is placed there first, the day begins collecting reasons to stay resentful. This is not because thoughts magically control reality. They do not. Other people remain other people. Circumstances remain real. Bodies have needs. Money matters. Loss matters. Safety matters. Choices have consequences. But attention influences what you repeatedly return to, what you amplify, what you overlook, and how you accompany yourself while reality unfolds. That is enough reason to care about what goes in the window. The owner does not need the most expensive object, the most impressive object, the most fashionable object, only something chosen. This morning, your chosen thing may be one word. Not yet. We will come to that. For now, see the room. The shutters are down. The world has not been invited in. There is still time to choose. This is the pause modern life often removes. A device beside the bed can bring the whole planet into consciousness before your feet touch the floor. Hundreds of voices can enter without knocking. Advertisements, opinions, emergencies that are no yours. Celebrations that trigger comparison. Arguments you were never part of. Perfect photographs made from selected moments. Bad news from far away. Good news you feel guilty for envying. Requests, reminders, numbers designed to keep you looking. The nervous system receives all of it as input. Then you wonder why your own thoughts feel faint. They have been asked to speak in a crowded room. You do not have to reject technology to understand this. You do not have to become unreachable. You can decide that the first few minutes of your inner shop belong to preparation rather than traffic. That decision may be tiny. The phone stays face down while you drink water. The first message waits while you stand at the window. You breathe before opening the app. You ask yourself one question before letting 10 other voices answer for you. What is here this morning? Not what should be here. What is here? Tiredness, hope, dread, relief, numbness, tenderness, anger. A strange mixture with no clean name. Let it be accurate. The owner cannot prepare a room by pretending it is a different room. If a shelf is empty, it is empty. If something broke yesterday, it needs attention. If the floor needs cleaning, the floor needs cleaning. Truth is useful. Shame is not. You can say, "I am tired," and then make a wiser plan. You can say, "I am overwhelmed," and reduce what can be reduced. You can say, "I am lonely," and consider connection. You can say, "I am afraid," and look for what is actually safe and what support you need. You can say, "I am angry," and ask what boundary, loss, or value the anger may be pointing toward. The room becomes easier to care for when you stop lying about its condition. This is why positive language must never become decorative paint over structural damage. If something in your life is harmful, you do not bless the harm and call it peace. If something needs medical attention, kindness does not mean ignoring it. If a relationship requires a boundary, love does not mean endless access. If a financial or legal problem needs qualified guidance, affirmations are not a substitute for practical action. A cared-for inner room helps you meet reality. It does not hide reality behind pretty curtains. That distinction matters. The shop owner does not light a candle beside a leaking pipe and call the problem solved. They address what must be addressed. Then they continue caring for the room. You can do both. You can use supportive words and make the appointment. You can hold hope and ask for help. You can believe in your worth and leave a situation that is harming you. You can seek peace and still say no. You can practice compassion and still tell the truth. The room becomes safer when care includes reality. Now see the owner reach for the shutter. There is a metal sound, a small resistance. The shutter has weight. It does not float upward because the owner thinks a positive thought. Hands meet the handle. Muscles work. The shutter rises a little. Morning light appears underneath. Just a line at first. A thin band across the floor. The room changes before the shutter is fully open. That matters too. You do not need complete openness for light to enter. You do not need to feel ready for the whole day before one useful thing can begin. A small opening changes the room. A small act can change the next hour. One honest text, one glass of water, one canceled obligation that should not have been accepted, one request for support, one breakfast, one shower, one page, one walk around the block, one decision not to check whether someone has replied for the 10th time, one moment of putting your hand on the counter of your own life and saying, "This is enough for now." The shutter rises another little distance. More light. Still not all the way. The owner can see the floor more clearly now. This is often what happens when you stop attacking yourself. You begin to see what actually needs attention. Before, everything looked like failure. Now one thing looks like fatigue, another looks like grief, another looks like avoidance, another looks like a practical problem, Another looks like someone else's responsibility. Another looks like a fear that needs reassurance. Another looks like a habit that needs changing. Clarity does not always arrive as one great realization. It often arrives as better sorting. This is mine. That is not mine. This needs action. That needs time. This deserves support. That can wait. This hurts. That is only an old story repeating. This is where the teaching begins. You do not open every shutter at once. You do not display everything you own. You do not invite every passerby behind the counter. You do not call yesterday's dust a personal defect. You do not mistake an empty shelf for proof that the shop has no value. You prepare. You choose. You open. You serve. You close. Then you begin again. This rhythm is not failure. It is life. There will be days when the shutters feel heavier, days when one opening is enough, days when the room needs more care than the window, days when the wisest thing is to reduce hours, days when help is needed, days when the street feels loud, days when business is slow, days when something beautiful sells and leaves an empty place behind. Days when the owner stands there for a moment, looking at the empty space, deciding what belongs there next. Empty space is not always loss. Sometimes it is availability. Sometimes it is recovery. Sometimes it is the place where a new choice can be made. Your life contains empty spaces too. A plan that ended, a role that changed, a person who left, a version of yourself ye can no longer return to, a season that did not become what you expected. You may look at those spaces and rush to fill them because emptiness feels unsafe. But a shopkeeper does not panic every time a shelf becomes empty. They pause. They consider. They decide what belongs there. You can learn that kind of patience with your own life. Not everything vacant must be replaced immediately. Not every silence needs a message. Not every ending needs a new beginning by afternoon. Not every uncertain space is a problem. Some spaces are asking you not to put the old thing back. That can be uncomfortable. Familiar pain has a strange advantage over unfamiliar freedom. You know how to live around it. A new way asks for different muscles. It asks you to choose instead of repeat. It asks you to tolerate the few seconds when the shelf is empty and no automatic answer is waiting. That is where change often lives, in the unfilled space. In the moment before the shutter is lifted further, in the breath before you answer the way you always answer, in the pause before you agree, in the morning before you decide what will sit in the window. You are standing there now, inside the room. The street is outside. The light is beginning to enter. Nothing has to be rushed. The day can wait one more moment while you decide what deserves the first place in your attention. You have done this without realizing it for years. Something gets there first. Urgency, duty, memory, someone else's mood. The belief that you must earn your right to feel settled. The suspicion that if you relax, something important will be missed. The fear that if you do not respond quickly enough, explain clearly enough, work hard enough, or stay useful enough, love or safety may somehow move farther away. Those beliefs did not appear from nowhere. Some were taught directly, some were learned by watching. Some were built during seasons when vigilance really did help you cope. You do not need to insult the person you were for learning them. That person was trying to keep the shop standing with the tools available at the time. They may have kept the lights on through difficult years. They may have found ways to function when nobody came to help. They may have learned how to read danger quickly, how to anticipate needs, how to become indispensable, how to keep emotion behind the counter until there was time to feel it. Thanking an old strategy does not mean keeping it forever. You can appreciate what helped you survive and still decide that survival is no longer the only way you want to live. You can retire a habit without hating the self who created it. That is an important kind of forgiveness, not the forgiveness of pretending nothing happened. The forgiveness of understanding why you became who you had to become, then asking who you are ready to become now. The room does not need to be demolished because yesterday was difficult. It may need air. It may need repair. It may need fewer things piled in the corners. It may need a stronger lock. It may need help from someone who knows how to fix what you cannot fix alone. It may need a different arrangement, but it is still your room. You are still allowed to care for it. You are still allowed to decide what belongs here. And before the shutters rise any higher, look at the strip of morning light already crossing the floor. It did not demand that the entire room be perfect before entering. It came through the opening that was available. Let that be enough for now. You do not need to be completely restored to receive one kind thought. You do not need to have solved your past to make one better choice. You do not need to know the whole road to create one clear boundary. You do not need to feel fearless to stop feeding one unnecessary fear. You do not need to become a different person before treating this person with respect. The day is beginning outside. Inside, you are still preparing. Soon we will choose what goes in the window, not what looks impressive, not what proves anything, what belongs there, what your eyes should meet before the eyes of the world do. For now, stand in the quiet room a little longer. Let the light reach only as far as it reaches. There is no failure in opening slowly. The window is still waiting for its first chosen thing. The shutters have risen enough for morning light to enter, but the street has not yet been given the whole room. There is still a private moment between preparation and exposure, between what you carried in from yesterday and what you decide to carry forward today. That moment matters more than it looks, because once the street wakes, choices multiply. People arrive. Questions arrive. Requests arrive. Noise arrives. Your own plans begin moving. The mind starts sorting, ranking, reacting, adjusting. And if nothing has been chosen for the window, whatever is loudest will often choose itself. That is how urgency becomes the first object on display. Urgency rarely asks permission. It enters with a list. It says, this first, then no, this, then you forgot that, then What about tomorrow? Then, why has that person not replied? Then, you are losing time. A few minutes later, you are no longer opening your morning. You are defending it. The shopkeeper understands something that the anxious mind often forgets. A window is small on purpose. It cannot hold everything. It should not hold everything. If every item were pushed against the glass at once, nothing could really be seen. The window would become clutter rather than invitation. Attention works the same way. You may have dozens of valid concerns. They do not all deserve the same position at the same moment. One issue may matter deeply and still not belong in the first hour of the day. One conversation may require your care and still be better handled after breakfast. One financial concern may be real and still need a scheduled time rather than constant mental repetition. One person may matter to you and still not deserve every available corner of your attention. One fear may deserve investigation without deserving the whole window. This is not denial, it is placement. A skilled shopkeeper knows where things belong. Storage is not rejection. The back room is not abandonment. A closed drawer is not pretending the contents do not exist. It means not everything must be on display at once. Your mind needs that permission. You can have an unresolved problem without displaying it every minute. You can carry grief without making every moment prove that grief exists. You can love someone without monitoring them constantly. You can be uncertain without repeatedly checking whether uncertainty has disappeared. You can care without rehearsing. You can prepare without panicking. You can remember without living backward. This is how the room becomes livable. Now imagine the owner walking toward a shelf. There are many objects to choose from. Some are beautiful, some are practical, some are ordinary. Some have been there a long time, some are new. The owner does not ask, which object proves that this shop is worthy? The shop already has worth. The question is simpler. What belongs in the window this morning? That is a different question, and you can ask it too. What belongs in the window of your attention today? Not for the next 10 years, not forever, today. Maybe courage belongs there, not loud courage, not dramatic courage, the kind that lets you make the phone call you have postponed. Maybe rest belongs there, not escape, not neglect. Rest as a legitimate part of functioning. Maybe patience belongs there because something important cannot be rushed. Maybe honesty, maybe enoughness, maybe clarity, maybe trust, maybe steadiness, maybe kindness, maybe one word you cannot fully believe yet, but want to practice making room for. You do not need to force a word into yourself like a command. You can place it where you can see it. That is different. The object in the window does not become the entire shop. It becomes a reference point, a reminder, a chosen direction for attention. If your word is patience, the whole day does not suddenly become easy. But when impatience begins taking over the room, you have something to return to. If your word is courage, fear does not disappear. But fear is no longer the only thing in view. If your word is rest, responsibilities do not vanish. But you stop treating exhaustion as proof that you must push harder. If your word is honesty, you may still hesitate. But you know what direction the next conversation needs to face. This is why a chosen word can help. Not because it controls reality, because it interrupts automatic placement. You begin deciding what receives the best space in your own attention. For some people, this feels surprisingly uncomfortable. Choosing peace can create resistance. Choosing rest can create guilt. Choosing self-respect can awaken old fear. Choosing boundaries can bring up memories of people who called boundaries selfish. Choosing a slower pace can trigger the belief that slow means behind. This is where you must become careful. A new inner arrangement can feel wrong simply because it is unfamiliar. You may have spent years placing urgency in the window, years placing other people's needs first, years placing achievement first, years placing fear first, years placing the question, what will they think, first. So when you place something else there, part of you may say, this is dangerous. Not because the new choice is actually dangerous, because the old arrangement was practiced. Familiarity can imitate safety. That is why the word pace matters. Not speed. Pace. Speed compares. Pace listens. Speed asks how fast others are moving. Pace asks what rhythm you can sustain without leaving yourself behind. Speed says, faster. Pace asks, can I continue this way without breaking trust with my body, my mind, my values, or my responsibilities? Pace can be quick when quickness is appropriate. Pace can be slow when slowness is wise. Pace can change. That is important. You are not making a lifelong declaration that everything must now happen slowly. You are deciding not to let pressure choose your rhythm automatically. There are moments when action matters. There are times when decisions should not be delayed. There are emergencies. There are responsibilities. There are deadlines. There are people who depend on you. Pace does not mean ignoring reality. Pace means meeting reality without turning every moment into emergency. It means the rhythm should fit what is actually happening. A shopkeeper does not move the same way during a quiet opening hour and during a crowded afternoon. The room changes. The rhythm changes. But the owner remains connected to the room. That connection is what matters. You are allowed to remain connected to yourself while moving through the day. You do not have to abandon your own signals in order to be responsible. You do not have to become numb in order to be efficient. You do not have to become harsh in order to become disciplined. You do not have to become exhausted in order to prove commitment. There is a difference between devotion and depletion. There is a difference between effort and self-erasure. You are learning that difference. So now, place one sentence in the window. Do not rush through it. Do not use it like a slogan. Let it sit. I open this day at the pace my heart can hold. You may notice that part of you likes the sentence immediately. Another part may resist. That is fine. You do not need unanimous agreement inside yourself. The sentence can remain. I open this day at the pace my heart can hold. The word pace may be the difficult word. Your mind may ask, what if my pace is too slow? Too slow for whom? For what? If there is a real deadline, meet the deadline wisely. If there is a real responsibility, give it attention. But if the pressure is only comparison, it may not deserve authority. The person you compare yourself with has a different body, different history, different support, different responsibilities, different losses, different advantages, different timing, different limits, different opportunities, different private struggles. You cannot accurately measure your life against the visible surface of another person's life. That comparison creates false clocks. Then you punish yourself for being late to a schedule that was never yours. The heart does not use that clock. The heart knows rhythm differently. It knows when grief makes a task heavier. It knows when fear has made the body tired. It knows when enthusiasm gives you more energy. It knows when something feels aligned. It knows when you need to stop pretending that a situation is acceptable. It knows when your yes has become dishonest. It knows when your no is overdue. Not every feeling is an instruction, but feelings are information. Pace listens to information. Pressure ignores it. Pressure says, go. Pace asks, what is sustainable? Pressure says, prove. Pace says, proceed. Pressure says, everyone else is already ahead. Pace says, I am here. That is why the sentence belongs in the window. I open this day at the pace my heart can hold. More softly now, not as a command, as permission. I open this day at the pace my heart can hold. You do not need to believe every word fully. You only need enough willingness to stop doing violence to your own rhythm. If the affirmation feels too large, reduce it. There is no prize for forcing belief. Say only, I am willing to find a pace I can live inside. If even that feels too far away, make it smaller. I am willing to stop rushing myself for this one moment. If that is still difficult, I am willing to be here. That is enough. A good affirmation should not become another standard you fail. It should create room. If a sentence makes you tense because you feel you must believe it perfectly, the sentence has been turned into pressure. Return to willingness. Willingness is a small opening. The shutter does not have to rise all the way. A little light still enters. This is how trust is built, not through forced certainty, through repeated experiences of being treated with respect by your own inner voice. You say you will take one step, and you take one. You say you will pause before agreeing, and you pause. You say you will ask for help when the problem exceeds what you can carry alone, and you ask. You say you will stop insulting yourself for being tired, and you catch the insult before it becomes a speech. You say you will leave one part of the day unscheduled, and you protect it. Small, kept agreements build something inside you. They build evidence. Evidence that you can listen. Evidence that you can respond. Evidence that you do not have to create panic in order to create movement. Evidence that your own words can become safe. This brings us back to the 3 thresholds. The first threshold was your body, not the body as a machine, the body as the place where this morning is actually happening. Before plans, before comparison, before the street. The first threshold asked you to stop treating tiredness as an accusation. The second threshold was your mind. Not a mind that must become completely silent. A mind that can learn that every thought does not deserve the front window. A mind that can sort. A mind that can say, this thought exists, but it does not have to lead. A mind that can place fear in storage long enough to check what is true. A mind that can choose one object rather than display the entire warehouse. And now you have reached the third threshold. This was the one that could not be forced. The one I did not name at the beginning. It is self-trust, not the kind of self-trust that promises you will always know what to do. That is fantasy, not the kind that says nothing painful will happen. No honest life can promise that. Not the kind that says you will never make another mistake. You will. Self-trust is quieter. It is the trust that you can meet yourself inside what happens, that you can listen, that you can adjust, that you can ask for help, that you can leave when leaving is necessary, that you can stay when staying is chosen freely and safely, that you can say no, that you can change your mind, that you can survive disappointment without turning disappointment into self-hatred, that you can feel fear without surrendering every decision to it, that you can move slowly without assuming you have failed, that you can move quickly when the moment requires it without using urgency as a permanent home. That is the third threshold. Self-trust. And notice how it opened. You did not force it. You arrived through care. You arrived through attention. You arrived by reducing the noise enough to hear your own inner room. You arrived by choosing what belongs in the window. That is why this threshold could not be named too early. Self-trust is not built from a declaration. It is built from relationship. Your relationship with your own signals. Your relationship with boundaries. Your relationship with truth. Your relationship with mistakes. Your relationship with uncertainty. your relationship with your body when it says enough, your relationship with your mind when it becomes frightened, your relationship with your choices after they are made. Do you punish yourself every time you misjudge something? Or do you learn? Do you humiliate yourself when fear appears? Or do you listen and check what is true? Do you abandon your needs the moment another person becomes uncomfortable? Or do you remain present with what matters? This is where self-trust grows, not by becoming infallible, by becoming dependable to yourself. The shopkeeper trusts the shop, not because nothing ever breaks. Things break, glass cracks, locks fail, shelves need repair. Weather affects business. Customers behave unpredictably. Some days are excellent, some days are disappointing. The trust is not in perfect conditions. The trust is in the ability to respond. That is a much stronger kind of trust. You do not need life to promise that nothing will go wrong before you can breathe more freely. You need to know that if something goes wrong, you will not become your own enemy. That is different. That is possible. And it does not mean handling everything alone. In fact, self-trust often includes knowing when you should not handle something alone. A wise shopkeeper calls someone when the wiring fails. They do not stand in the dark repeating positive sentences about electricity. They bring in someone qualified. If the lock is broken, they repair the lock. If a problem threatens safety, they treat it seriously. If the books do not make sense, they ask for appropriate expertise. Your life deserves the same respect. Affirmations can support well-being. They can help shape kinder self-talk, clearer intention, and a steadier way of accompanying yourself. They are not a replacement for medical care, mental health care, legal guidance, financial expertise, or other qualified support when those are needed. There is strength in knowing the difference. If you are struggling in a way that feels overwhelming, persistent, unsafe, or beyond what you can manage, reaching toward trusted people, community, or qualified professionals can be part of caring for yourself. Seeking help does not mean the inner shop has failed. It means you value it enough to protect it. And peace never requires you to remain where you are being harmed. Peace is not silence at any price. Peace is not agreeing because you are afraid. Peace is not removing your boundaries so someone else can feel comfortable. Peace is not pretending abuse, danger, manipulation, or mistreatment is a spiritual lesson you must endure. A secure room has doors. It has locks. It has opening hours. It has places that are not available to everyone. Boundaries are not the opposite of love. They can be one of love's structures. Your life is not made more loving by making you less safe. Your compassion does not require you to surrender discernment. Your wish for harmony does not require you to ignore what harms you. This matters because some people were taught that kindness means endless access. It does not. Kindness without boundaries becomes exhaustion. Compassion without truth becomes self-betrayal. Love without safety becomes confusion. You are allowed to care and still close the door. You are allowed to understand someone and still say no. You are allowed to forgive and still choose distance. You are allowed to hope someone changes and still make decisions based on what is happening now. You're allowed to seek support before you have reached your limit. Self-trust includes believing your needs deserve attention before crisis. The shopkeeper does not wait for the roof to collapse before noticing the leak. Care responds earlier. This is where the metaphor becomes even more useful. There are 3 spaces in the shop: the window, the room, the back room. The window is what receives active attention. The room is what you are living with. The back room is what does not need to be handled this minute. You can practice using these 3 spaces. A necessary task belongs in the window. A feeling you are processing may belong in the room. A worry about something that cannot be resolved until next week may belong in the back room. A message you need to answer today can go in the window. A mistake from 5 years ago that your mind keeps using as evidence against you may not deserve any shelf at all. A real health concern belongs somewhere responsible. Action can reach it. A fear built entirely from imagined possibilities may need to move away from the glass. This kind of sorting is not perfect. Some things move between spaces. Something in the back room may become urgent. Something in the window may be completed and removed. That is life. The goal is not total control. The goal is conscious placement. You begin noticing when fear has moved itself into the window. You can say, "I see you." Then ask, "Do you belong here right now?" Sometimes the answer is yes. Fear may be pointing to genuine danger. Listen carefully. Check facts. Protect yourself. Ask for help. Sometimes the answer is no. Fear may be replaying an old possibility. Then you can move it, not destroy it, not shame it, move it. This is emotional maturity, not the absence of difficult feelings. The ability to decide which feelings get to drive. Anger may enter. Listen for information, then choose how to act. Sadness may enter. Give it space, then decide what the day requires. Anxiety may enter. Check what is real, then choose the next useful step. Hope may enter. Enjoy it without demanding certainty. This is how the room becomes honest without becoming chaotic. The owner continues preparing. The first object is now in the window. The light reaches it. Outside, people begin walking past. Some will notice, some will not. That is another lesson. Not everyone will notice the inner work you are doing. They may only see that you answered later, that you said no, that you changed your schedule, that you stopped explaining as much. that you are quieter, that you no longer rescue every situation, that you are choosing differently. They may not see the years behind those choices. They may not see how much courage it took to stop performing the old role. They may not understand. Understanding is welcome. It is not always required. The shopkeeper does not redesign the window every time a passerby looks unimpressed. The window reflects the values of the shop. Your life cannot be arranged entirely around preventing every misunderstanding. You can clarify when clarification is useful. You can repair when you have caused harm. You can listen when feedback is wise. But you cannot build a life whose only purpose is to make sure nobody ever disagrees with your choices. That life becomes another crowded window. Everyone's opinion displayed except your own. Self-trust means your voice gets a place too, not the only place. A place. That is balance. This is especially important when you are tired. Fatigue can make every external voice sound louder. You may doubt a boundary you knew was necessary. You may reopen a conversation that needed rest. You may say yes because explaining no feels like too much work. You may return to familiar patterns because familiar patterns require less thought. This is where the chosen object in the window helps. Your word, your sentence, your pace. They remind you what you decided before the street became loud. I open this day at the pace my heart can hold. You may need that sentence at noon more than you need it now. You may need it when someone asks for an answer immediately. You may need it when you make a mistake. You may need it when your energy dips. You may need it when the day does not match the plan. You may need it when you see someone else moving faster. You may need it when an old fear tries to become urgency. The sentence can return, not as a spell, as orientation. A compass does not remove the terrain. It helps you remember direction. You are building direction now. This is the first major loop closing. The 3 thresholds are no longer mysterious. Body, mind, self-trust. The body tells you what is happening here. The mind learns what deserves attention. Self-trust helps you choose how to respond. They belong together. When the body is ignored, the mind may become louder. When the mind is obeyed, automated. Icily, fear may take the window. When self-trust is weak, every outside voice can become an authority. When all 3 are cared for, the day becomes less like something happening to you and more like something you can participate in, not control. Participate in, that is enough. But there is another question waiting now, smaller than the first one, more practical. You know what the 3 thresholds are. You know what can go in the window. You know why pace matters. The next question is this: what do you do when the street becomes loud anyway? Because it will. The phone will ring. Someone may be impatient. Plans may change. Something unexpected may arrive. You may lose the calm you created. You may forget the affirmation entirely. You may react. You may become overwhelmed by noon. That does not erase the morning. A shop does not stop being cared for because the door became busy. The skill you need next is not perfect calm, it is return. How do you return without turning return into another failure? That is what we will practice next. For now, keep the image. The window, the chosen thing, the light, the street outside, and the room that still belongs to you even after the door opens. You do not need to control the street. You need to remember where the counter is. The counter is the place you return to when the street becomes louder than your own thoughts. It is the steady surface in the middle of the shop. Customers may be speaking. The door may be opening and closing. Something may need to be found. A question may need an answer. An item may be out of place. Someone may be impatient. The phone may ring. The room may no longer resemble the quiet place you prepared early in the morning. Still, the counter remains. It gives the owner somewhere to stand, somewhere to place both hands for a moment, somewhere to remember what belongs to the shop and what came in from the street. You need places like that inside your day, not places where nothing difficult happens, places where you can return when difficulty happens. That is a more useful kind of peace. You do not need a morning ritual that only works when the morning stays peaceful. You need a way of returning after peace has been interrupted, because interruption is normal. The message arrives. Someone speaks sharply. A meeting changes. Traffic slows. The plan falls apart. You remember something you forgot. A mistake becomes visible. An old emotional wound gets touched by a new conversation. Your energy changes without asking permission. The body that felt capable at 8 may feel depleted at 2. The confidence you had before a difficult call may disappear halfway through it. A person may misunderstand you. You may misunderstand someone else. You may react before choosing. You may say more than you intended. You may say less. You may find yourself standing emotionally in the middle of the street again, surrounded by other people's needs, your own thoughts, unfinished tasks, and that old pressure telling you that if you were truly healed, none of this would disturb you. Do not believe that pressure. The ability to return is more important than the ability to remain untouched. Untouched is not a realistic goal. You are alive. Life touches you. People affect you. News affects you. Bodies respond. Memories rise. Loss changes the shape of ordinary days. Love can open places you thought were protected. Uncertainty can shake confidence. You will not become peaceful by becoming unreachable. The work is different. You learn how to come back. This is why the shop metaphor matters after the shutters have opened. Anyone can imagine the quiet room before business begins. The deeper lesson is what the owner does after the first hour of the day. Suppose several people enter at once. One asks a question. Another needs help. A delivery arrives. Something has been placed on the wrong shelf. The phone rings. A child touches something fragile. A customer seems unhappy. The owner does not say, "The peaceful opening failed." They work with what is here. They return to the counter. One thing at a time. That is the rhythm. One thing at a time. Not because only one thing exists, because only one thing can receive full attention in a single moment. Your mind may try to live otherwise. It may attempt to solve 5 problems while answering one message. It may replay a conversation while you are washing dishes. It may rehearse tomorrow while you are walking today. It may plan the evening while someone is speaking to you now. It may send attention into so many directions that by the time you need your energy, you have already spent it in imaginary places. Return means gathering enough of yourself back to meet what is actually in front of you. You do not need complete inner silence. You need enough presence to make one conscious choice. That is a lower bar, a kinder bar, a practical one. You can return while anxious. You can return while disappointed. You can return while angry. You can return while unsure. You can return before the emotion is resolved. This matters because many people postpone wise action until they believe they should feel better first. You do not have to wait for perfect calm before making one respectful decision. You can be nervous and still say no. You can be sad and still eat. You can be overwhelmed and still ask for help. You can be disappointed and still tell the truth without cruelty. You can be tired and still decide what truly must be done today and what can wait. Return is not a feeling. It is a movement of attention. Back to the counter, back to what is yours, back to what is true, back to the next useful action. You may need this movement dozens of times in one day. That is not failure. The shopkeeper may walk away from the counter dozens of times. That is part of the work. The counter exists so there is somewhere to come back to. This is where perfectionism misunderstands healing. Perfectionism imagines that progress means never returning to an old reaction. Real change often looks like recognizing the reaction sooner. At first, you may spend 3 days inside a spiral before realizing what happened. Later, 3 hours. Later, 30 minutes. Later, you hear the first familiar sentence in your mind and know where it usually leads. The old road has not disappeared. You have learned to see the turn. That is progress. Do not erase progress because you still have patterns. A shop can be well cared for and still gather dust. A window can be beautiful and still need cleaning. A hinge can squeak again. A shelf can become disorganized after a busy afternoon. Care is repetitive by nature. You brush your teeth again. You eat again. You sleep again. You wash again. You tidy again. You reconnect again. You begin again. Why should emotional care be the one area where repetition is treated as proof that nothing worked? You are allowed to return to the same truth many times. You are allowed to need the same boundary more than once. You are allowed to remind yourself that another person's mood is not automatically your responsibility. You are allowed to rediscover the difference between urgency and importance. You are allowed to return to your pace after abandoning it for an hour. A return does not require a speech. It can be very small. You are halfway through a stressful morning. You realize your shoulders are tight and your thoughts are racing ahead. Instead of criticizing yourself for losing the softness of the morning, you say, "Back to the counter. No drama, no punishment, just orientation." What is actually happening? What belongs to me? What requires action now? What can wait? What is only being imagined? What did I agree to that I can still revise? What am I trying to control that is not mine to control? These questions can clear a crowded counter. You do not have to answer all of them. One may be enough. Sometimes the answer is uncomfortable. What belongs to you may be an apology. What belongs to you may be making the appointment. What belongs to you may be admitting you made a mistake. What belongs to you may be finishing a task you kept avoiding. What belongs to you may be telling someone that the way they are speaking to you is not acceptable. What belongs to you may be accepting that another person gets to make a choice you dislike. Return is not always soothing. Sometimes return brings you closer to reality, but reality is easier to work with than endless mental noise. The counter holds what is real. Not every story the street brings in. Imagine someone entering the shop carrying a box and setting it on your counter. They say, "This is yours." Would you automatically believe them? You might look at the label. You might ask where it came from. You might discover it belongs next door. Emotionally, you may accept boxes much faster. Someone is disappointed, so you assume you failed. Someone is angry, so you assume you must fix it. Someone is distant, so you assume you caused it. Someone is anxious, so you become anxious too. Someone needs something, so you assume you must provide it. Someone misunderstands you, so you spend hours trying to rearrange their mind. Look at the label. Is this yours? Sometimes it is. If your action caused harm, responsibility matters. If you made a commitment, integrity matters. If you can repair something honestly, do so. But another person's feeling is not automatically proof of your wrongdoing. A person can be disappointed because you used a healthy boundary. A person can be angry because you stopped doing something that benefited them. A person can misunderstand you even after you explain yourself clearly. A person can want something from you that you do not have to give. You can care without accepting every box. This is one of the ways the inner shop stays inhabitable. The counter is not a dumping ground. It is a place of discernment. You inspect. You decide. You act. You release what is not yours. The same is true of thoughts. A thought enters carrying a box labeled failure. Open it. What is actually inside? A mistake? One delayed task? A conversation that went badly? A goal that took longer than expected? That is not the same as a failed self. The label was too large. Another thought arrives carrying a box labeled rejection. What is inside? One unanswered message, one person who changed direction, one opportunity that did not happen, painful perhaps, but not universal rejection. Again, the label was too large. Another arrives labeled too late. Open it. What is there? A comparison, an age, a plan that did not unfold according to expectation, a fear about time. Maybe some opportunities truly have passed. Human lives include closed doors, but one door closed is still different from my life is over. Precision protects the room from exaggerated labels. This is part of return. Name what is actually in the box, then decide where it belongs. Perhaps action, perhaps grief, perhaps learning, perhaps release, perhaps the back room until you have more information, perhaps outside the shop entirely. You do not owe permanent shelf space to every thought that has ever frightened you. Now the day has moved further. The street is fully awake. The opening ceremony feels far away. You may be working now. You may be caring for someone. You may be moving through errands. You may be facing a conversation you hoped would be easier. The shop image still works. The shutters are open, but you are not helpless. Opening does not mean surrender. This is where the vow belongs. Not at the beginning, when it could have sounded beautiful, but untested. Now you understand the weight of the shutters. You understand the room. You understand the window. You understand the street. You understand that a door can be open and still have a threshold. So make this promise from inside the metaphor you have been living. I raise only the shutters I am ready to open, and I choose with care what enters this room. Let the sentence stand. It does not say you will never be surprised. It does not say you will control every person. It does not say you will always know what you are ready for. It does not say you will never open too much too quickly. It says you will participate. You will choose with care. That word matters. Care, not fear, not avoidance. Care. Sometimes care says yes. Sometimes care says no. Sometimes care says not yet. Sometimes care says I need more information. Sometimes care says I cannot do this alone. Sometimes care says this opportunity scares me, but I want to open the shutter anyway. Sometimes care says this relationship has had too much access. Sometimes care says this old dream deserves another chance. Sometimes care says today is not the day for another demand. Care is not always comfortable, it is attentive. Repeat the vow only once more, not to force it deeper, but to hear its shape. I raise only the shutters I am ready to open, and I choose with care what enters this room. This is a promise of participation rather than control. You cannot choose everything that happens. You can often choose what receives continued access. You can choose whether one rude comment becomes the emotional center of the next 6 hours. You can choose whether a comparison gets repeated until it feels like truth. You can choose whether you respond immediately or wait until you can respond clearly. You can choose whether to ask someone trustworthy for perspective. You can choose whether the phone enters the first minute of tomorrow morning. You can choose what you practice. You can choose what you return to. This is how a vow becomes useful. It enters behavior. Otherwise, it is decoration, a beautiful sign above a neglected shop. Your life does not need more decorative promises. It needs small agreements that can survive an ordinary Tuesday. So take this into the day in a form you can actually use. Not a long ritual, not a sequence that becomes another obligation. A brief opening practice. When you wake tomorrow, or whenever you remember, imagine the shutters still down for a few moments. Before the street enters, ask, what condition is the room in? No indictment, only truth, tired, clear, tender, heavy, hopeful, restless, neutral, whatever is there. Then ask, what belongs in the window first? One word, only one. You do not need 10 affirmations before breakfast. Choose the object. Peace, courage, patience, clarity, enough, truth, steadiness, kindness, whatever fits the real room. Then ask, what can remain outside for 10 more minutes? This may be the most powerful question. The inbox, the news, a problem you cannot solve before coffee, someone else's mood, a comparison, a decision that needs a clearer head. You are not refusing the whole street. You are choosing opening time. Then begin. That is enough. 3 movements. Check the room. Choose the window. Decide what can wait outside. This is a ceremony small enough for real life. You can do it in less time than it takes to scroll through someone else's morning. And if you forget, begin at 11. If you forget at 11, begin at 3. There is no rule saying the shutters can only be adjusted at sunrise. A shopkeeper changes the room during the day. You can too. You can pause before lunch and ask what has taken over the window. Maybe it is frustration. Maybe one email is now sitting there like it represents your entire career. Maybe one person's opinion has become larger than your own knowing. Maybe an unexpected expense is understandably taking attention. Maybe fear has returned. Look at the window. Is that what you want displayed for the rest of the day? If the answer is no, rearrange. You do not have to deny the problem. Move it to the place where useful action can reach it. Then place something else beside it. A reminder of capacity, a next step, a boundary, a trusted name to call, a plan, a little perspective. This is return in practice, and there is a bodily side to it too, not a long descent. You are moving into the day, not away from it. So use the body as a doorway back to the room. Feel your feet where they are. Not to become perfectly calm, to remember location. You are here. Let your jaw unclench if it has been holding an argument. Let your shoulders come down from the work they were doing before you assigned it. Let your hands release whatever they do not need to grip. Give the chest enough room for one unforced breath. Let the stomach be a body, not a container for every unfinished conversation. Straighten or soften your back in the way that gives you a little more space. Feel the weight of your legs, your feet, the floor. Here. This body is the first threshold again. You can return through it. Not because the body always gives simple answers. Because the body is where the present moment has an address. When the mind is in tomorrow, your feet remain here. When the mind is replaying yesterday, your hands remain here. When the mind is imagining someone else's reaction, your breath remains here. You do not have to stay focused on the body for long. Use it as the doorway. Then ask what the next hour needs. Perhaps it needs movement, perhaps food, perhaps focused work, perhaps a conversation, perhaps quiet, perhaps medical care, perhaps a break, perhaps the courage to stop postponing something. This is not softness for softness's sake. It is intelligent use of energy. A shopkeeper who refuses to rest because resting looks weak will eventually have less to give the shop. A person works the same way. You do not become more devoted by pretending you have no limits. Limits provide shape. A cup is useful because it has edges. A room is livable because it has walls and doors. A shop functions because it has hours, shelves, storage, a counter, a window, and a threshold. Structure creates usefulness. Your boundaries can do the same. A work hour, a rest hour, a phone on silent, a conversation that ends when disrespect begins, a day when you do less because your body requires more care, a request answered with, "I cannot take that on," a task completed without adding 5 more to prove momentum. These are shutters. They regulate access. You do not have to explain every shutter to everyone standing outside. Some people will understand, some will not. Your task is not to become careless about other people. Your task is to stop being careless with yourself. There is a difference. You can be considerate without becoming endlessly available. You can be generous without giving from an empty counter. You can be present without offering every inner room for public inspection. Privacy is not dishonesty. Rest is not laziness. A delayed response is not always rejection. A boundary is not always conflict. A change of mind is not automatically betrayal. You are allowed to update the shop. Something that worked last year may not fit now. A display can change. The hours can change. The inventory can change. The owner can learn. Your life is allowed to change shape too. You may have built an identity around being the one who never needs anything. That identity can change. You may have been the person who always answers immediately. That can change. You may have believed that being easy to love means never being difficult to accommodate. That can change. You may have mistaken overextension for kindness. That can change. Change does not dishonor the past version of you. It recognizes new information. You know more now. You have lived more. You have paid attention to what certain patterns cost. That is why a new arrangement is possible. Some shelves can move. Some things can be removed from the window. Some boxes can finally leave the room. And some beautiful thing you kept in storage because you thought there was no space may finally come forward. Joy, perhaps. Creativity. Play. Curiosity. Friendship. Quiet. A dream you stopped speaking about. An interest that has no productive purpose. A part of you that does not want to optimize anything. These things matter too. A shop that displays only obligations becomes a strange place to live. Your life needs more than maintenance. You need something that reminds you why the room is worth caring for. This is where the one beautiful object in the window becomes important again. It does not have to solve anything. Beauty often does not solve. It gives the eye somewhere humane to rest. Your chosen word can do the same. It may not fix the day. It may give your attention somewhere healthier to return. Now imagine late afternoon. The room is different from the morning. There are signs that people have been there. Something needs straightening. A few tasks remain. Your chosen object is still in the window, though the light has changed. This is another lesson. The word you chose in the morning may mean something different by afternoon. Courage in the morning may have meant starting. Courage later may mean stopping. Patience in the morning may have meant giving something time. Patience later may mean giving yourself time. Clarity in the morning may have meant making a plan. Clarity later may mean admitting the plan needs to change. Peace in the morning may have meant quiet. Peace later may mean telling a difficult truth so you no longer carry unspoken resentment. A word can mature during the day. Let it. Do not freeze the meaning. You are not trying to control experience with vocabulary. You are creating a reference point flexible enough to live with. The street will still become loud. Now you know what to do. You return to the counter. You check the labels. You move what does not belong. You remember the window. You decide whether a shutter needs adjusting. You take the next useful action. Then you continue. Not perfectly, faithfully. There is still one final part of the shop we have not fully considered. Opening has received our attention. Returning has received our attention. But every healthy shop also knows what to do with the room after the day has moved through it. Not a sleep ritual, not an escape from life. Something more subtle. What do you keep in the window when the day has tested the word you chose? What remains after plans change, attention wanders, and you discover that beginning softly did not mean living without difficulty? That question will carry us into the final stretch. For now, keep the vow close enough to use. I raise only the shutters I am ready to open, and I choose with care what enters this room. Then return to the counter. The street can be loud without becoming your whole world. The day does not have to stay quiet for the morning to have mattered. That is the answer to the question we left open. The word you placed in the window was never meant to protect you from every interruption. It was never meant to keep the street empty, the phone silent, people agreeable, plans unchanged, or your emotions perfectly arranged. It was meant to give you somewhere to return. That is what remains after the day tests you. Return. You may have chosen peace and then met conflict. You may have chosen patience and then felt irritated before noon. You may have chosen courage and still postponed the conversation. You may have chosen clarity and become confused. You may have chosen enoughness and caught yourself comparing again. None of this means you chose the wrong word. The object in the window does not control the street. It reminds the shop what it values. There is a difference. A window displaying a beautiful bowl does not prevent someone outside from being rude. A book in the window does not stop the weather from changing. A flower does not guarantee a profitable day. Beauty is not control. Intention is not control. Affirmation is not control. What you choose for the window gives your attention a home to come back to after it has wandered. And attention will wander. Let that be ordinary. You are not failing every time your mind leaves the room. You are practicing return every time you come back. That shift matters. Imagine the owner near the end of a demanding day. The floor no longer looks untouched. Several things have moved. The counter holds evidence of work. The air is different. The room carries the day in it. The beautiful object remains in the window. It is the same object, but afternoon light falls across it differently now. Maybe that is how your word feels too. This morning, peace may have meant silence. Now peace may mean refusing to carry a conversation into the evening after you have already done what you reasonably can. This morning, courage may have meant beginning. Now courage may mean admitting that you are tired. This morning, trust may have meant moving towards something. Now trust may mean leaving the outcome alone for a while. This morning, kindness may have meant speaking warmly to yourself. Now kindness may mean not agreeing to one more unnecessary obligation. Words grow as you live them. They stop being decorative. They become decisions. That is when an affirmation begins to matter, not when it sounds beautiful, when it changes the tone of one choice. You do not need to remember every sentence you have heard here today. You do not need to carry 20,000 words into your schedule. You do not need to perform the teaching correctly in Lee. It may remain one image, one decision, one word. That is enough. The rest can move into the back room. Some words may return later when you need them. Others may disappear completely. Nothing important is lost simply because you cannot consciously remember every part. A morning practice is not an examination. The mind keeps what it can use. The heart recognizes what fits. The rest can pass. You have already done the essential thing. You entered the room before giving the whole street permission to define it. Even if you only imagine doing that, you have practiced another possibility. The possibility that your attention can be chosen. The possibility that your pace can change. The possibility that your inner voice can become less punishing. The possibility that a boundary can be care. The possibility that self-trust can be built through small, kept agreements rather than dramatic promises. These possibilities do not need to become certainty today. A shop opens one morning at a time. So do you. There will be mornings when the shutters rise easily. There will be mornings when the metal feels heavy in your hands. There will be mornings when you know exactly what belongs in the window. There will be mornings when you do not. On those mornings, choose something simple. Enough. Here. Breathe. Begin. Truth. Care. One word is enough to interrupt the belief that you must solve everything before you can live the next hour. You can choose your word after a bad night. You can choose it after an argument. You can choose it when you are grieving. You can choose it when you feel strong. You can choose it when you feel almost nothing. The ritual does not require a particular mood. It only requires a moment of participation. You are here. What belongs in the window? That question can follow you anywhere. Before opening your email, before entering a meeting, before answering a difficult message, before walking into a family gathering, before making a decision, before checking a result, before speaking when you are angry, before agreeing because you are afraid of disappointing someone. What belongs in the window right now? If fear has taken the place, do not attack fear. Ask what it is protecting. If urgency is there, ask whether something truly requires immediate action. If shame is there, ask whether you need responsibility or punishment. Those are not the same thing. Responsibility repairs. Punishment repeats injury. If comparison is there, ask what your own life requires instead. If resentment is there, ask whether an unspoken boundary is trying to become visible. If numbness is there, do not demand enthusiasm. Start with contact. This is how the room stays alive. Not by eliminating every uncomfortable object, by placing things honestly. There are days when grief belongs in the window. That may sound strange, but if grief is what is real, hiding it behind false brightness can exhaust you further. You can place grief there without making it your entire identity. You can say, "This is part of today." Then give yourself a pace that respects it. There are days when anger belongs there because something important has been crossed. Anger can become information without becoming destruction. There are days when uncertainty belongs there because pretending certainty would be dishonest. You can make room for not knowing. A window does not always need to display cheerfulness. It needs truth chosen with care. That is a deeper kind of beauty. You are no longer arranging the room to impress the street. You are arranging it so you can live inside it. That is a major change. For many people, the question has always been, how do I look? How do I look to the family? How do I look at work? How do I look compared with people my age? How do I look online? How do I look to the person whose approval I still want? How do I look when I say no? How do I look when I admit I am struggling? How do I look when I change direction? The shop becomes exhausting when the owner spends all day outside staring back through the glass. Come inside, live from the room. You can care about how your choices affect people without making outside perception your permanent address. There is more to a life than appearance. There is fit. There is safety. There is meaning. There is integrity. There is energy. There is health. There is truth. There is the private experience of waking up inside your own decisions. That private experience matters. You are the one who must live in the room after everyone else goes home. So the room should contain some evidence of your own values, some evidence that you belong here, some evidence that you were considered when the day was arranged. This can be very small. A meal eaten before you become ravenous. A break taken before resentment rises. A request declined without a long defense. A doctor called when something needs attention. A message sent to someone safe. A task divided into smaller pieces. A plan adjusted because the original plan no longer fits reality. A few minutes without input. A door closed. A door opened. A light switched on. The shop metaphor was never meant to make your life look quaint. It is meant to give you a working image for care. Open, prepare, choose, serve, return, Adjust. Close what needs closing. Begin again. This is a rhythm. And rhythm may be what your tired soul has needed more than motivation. Motivation rises and falls. Rhythm can carry you when motivation is absent. A shopkeeper does not wake inspired every day. Still, the key turns. The room is checked. Something is prepared. The shutters move. Life begins again through ordinary acts, tie-ins. You can build trust the same way, not by waiting until you feel completely renewed. Through ordinary acts of respect, you drink the water, you make the call, you rest when rest is needed, you complete the next thing, you tell the truth, you ask for support, you stop revisiting what has no new information, you choose a word, you return. These actions may look small. Small does not mean meaningless. A hinge is small compared with a door. The whole door depends on it. Your day contains hinges. The moment before you answer, the moment before you agree, the moment before you criticize yourself, the moment before you check the phone again, the moment before you decide that one mistake means everything is going wrong. A small hinge, a different movement. That is where change often begins. So when the old voice returns and tells you you are back at the beginning, answer carefully. You are not always back at the beginning. You may be meeting the same place with more awareness. That is different. The same emotion can arise in a person who has changed. The same trigger can appear. The difference may be that you see it sooner. You name it more accurately. You recover faster. You ask for help earlier. You stop one sentence before it becomes cruelty toward yourself. You leave the room before the argument becomes harmful. You rest before depletion becomes collapse. Progress is not always the disappearance of difficulty. Sometimes progress is a different response to difficulty. That deserves recognition. You have spent much of this morning learning to stop demanding transformation before offering respect. Carry that forward. Respect the person who is still learning. Respect the person who needs reminders. Respect the person who sometimes knows the right thing and still finds it hard to do. Knowledge and capacity are not identical. You can know what boundary you need and still need courage to use it. You can know rest matters and still struggle to stop. You can know comparison hurts and still find yourself comparing. You can know a relationship is over and still miss it. You can know something was not right for you and still grieve what you hoped it would become. Human beings contain overlapping truths. You do not have to reduce yourself to one clean sentence. The affirmation is not meant to reduce you either. It gives one direction. I open this day at the pace my heart can hold. The day may already be well underway as you hear that line now. It still applies. A day can be reopened. A conversation can be reset. An afternoon can have another beginning. A difficult hour does not own every hour after it. You can lift another shutter. You can move one thing out of the window. You can choose again. That is the privilege of being awake to your own life. Choice does not mean unlimited control. It means there are still places where your participation matters. Find those places. Do not waste all your strength trying to control what belongs to the street. Another person's opinion belongs partly to the street. The past belongs to the street. The fact that time moves belongs to the street. The outcome of every effort belongs partly to the street. The exact timing of someone else's growth belongs to the street. Your choices about how you speak, where you place attention, what boundaries you keep, what help you seek, and what pace you choose belong much closer to the counter. Spend your strength there. That is where your hands can reach. You may have been exhausted partly because you were trying to run the street from inside the shop, trying to predict everyone, prevent every disappointment, hold every relationship together, control every impression, solve every future problem before it existed. No one can do that. Come back behind the counter. What can your hands actually touch? This task, this boundary, this meal, this call, this breath, this truth, this word. Enough. Now let the language become simpler. The day has already carried enough complexity. You do not need another long explanation. Let these lines pass through at their own pace. Keep the ones that belong. Leave the others. I can begin from where I am. I can meet this morning without attacking myself. I can move without rushing my worth. I can listen before I react. I can make room for what is true. I can choose what receives my attention. I can leave some things outside for now. I can return when the street becomes loud. I can check the label before accepting the box. I can take responsibility without turning against myself. I can care without becoming endlessly available. I can say no with respect. I can ask for help before I am empty. I can seek qualified support when I need it. I can change my pace without calling myself weak. I can let one difficult moment remain one difficult moment. I can stop making every delay mean failure. I can be uncertain and still take a wise next step. I can let another person have feelings I do not control. I can stop rehearsing conversations that are not happening now. I can choose reality over imagined catastrophe. I can learn from yesterday without putting yesterday in the window all day. I can make room for grief without calling me a life hopeless. I can make room for joy without needing to earn it. I can respect my body's signals. I can question old urgency. I can give attention to what is actually here. I can keep the door closed where safety requires it. I can open where trust has been earned. I can revise old arrangements. I can move something off the shelf. I can leave empty space empty for a while. I can choose again. I can return. I can begin. My pace can change. My boundaries can hold. My attention has value. My room has value. My truth has value. My rest has value. My life is not a race. This moment is enough. One thing at a time. One honest step. One clear boundary. One useful action. One quiet return. Back to the counter. Back to the room. Back to what is mine. Back to what is true. I am here. I can choose. I can pause. I can respond. I can adjust. I can return. I can begin again. Open. Choose. Return. Trust. Enough. Here. Begin. Let the shorter lines do what longer explanations cannot. They leave space. You do not need to fill that space immediately. The mind may keep listening. It may also wander. That is all right. You may start thinking about breakfast, work, a person you need to call, something you must remember, somewhere you need to go. Nothing has gone wrong. These words do not require your constant grip. You can carry the meaning without carrying every sentence. As the day continues, this may move into the background. Let it. A good morning practice should release you into your life. It should not demand that you remain inside the practice forever. Go live. Answer what needs answering. Do the work that belongs to you. Meet people. Laugh when laughter comes. Cry when tears are true. Rest when your body asks for care. Ask questions. Make decisions. Change some decisions. Get something wrong. Repair what you can. Protect what must be protected. Receive help. Offer help when you have the capacity. Then return when you need to. Nothing is missed because your attention moves on. The room remains. The counter remains. The window remains available for another choice. This is your permission to stop trying to hold every insight consciously. You are not required to memorize your way into peace. You practice it, then you live. And if later today you suddenly remember only the image of a shutter lifting a few inches and light entering beneath it, that is enough. If you remember only the counter, enough. If you remember only one word, enough. If you remember nothing until tomorrow morning, you have lost nothing. You can start there. The shop opens again. Now choose the word, not the word that sounds most spiritual, not the word you think someone else would choose. Your word. What would you like to place in the window of this day? Peace, trust, enough, courage, rest, truth, patience, clarity, care, hope, steadiness, freedom. Choose one. Do not explain it. Do not defend it. You can keep it private. Or if you want to mark this beginning, leave only that one word below. One word is enough. Place it in the window. See it there. Let the morning light find it. You do not have to know exactly how you will live it. You will discover that through the day. The word is not a contract with perfection. It is a direction. And when you forget the direction, return. That is the practice. Return without humiliation. Return without declaring the day ruined. Return without starting a trial against yourself. A shopkeeper does not close forever because one shelf became disordered. Straighten what you can. Ask for help with what you cannot. Continue. Your tiredness may still be here. Do not make that a failure. Your responsibilities may still be here. Meet them in their real size. Your unanswered questions may still be here. Let unanswered questions remain unanswered until there is something real to do. Someone may still misunderstand you. You cannot live entirely inside another person's interpretation. Something may still hurt. Care for what hurts. Something may still need to end. Let truth participate. Something new may be asking to begin. You do not need to fling every shutter upward. Open what you are ready to open. The vow remains. I raise only the shutters I am ready to open, and I choose with care what enters this room. Your affirmation remains. I open this day at the pace my heart can hold. And the third threshold remains available. Self-trust. Not perfect confidence, not certainty. The trust that you can return. That is enough to begin with. Morning after morning, the evidence can grow. You listen, you respond, you adjust, you protect, you open, you close, you repair, you choose. Eventually, your own presence may begin to feel less like another demand and more like somewhere you can live. That may be one of the softest forms of healing, not becoming a different person overnight. Becoming a safer companion to the person who wakes up as you. Life loves you, and this morning does not need a grand ending. The street is waiting. The room is ready enough. The window holds one chosen thing. You can begin again softly. Raise the shutter only as far as today requires. Let the light enter through the opening you can make. Keep one beautiful truth where your own eyes can find it. The room is yours to open with care.